Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm UndeadSick83, your governor of Walking Dead and movie reviews. And today it's time for something new. It's the day where we try new things. And I'm actually gonna record my first podcast. Yes, we are going to do podcasts, movie podcasts. And today I'm recording my very first one, which I hope you are going to like. So here's how it's gonna go. Once a month, for now anyway. I try to do it more in the future, but for now it's once a month probably. Once a month I will pick 2 movies from my collection and I will dissect and talk about them with you. You know, it could be 2 movies with the same director, it could be 2 Giallos, it could be 2, well, whatever. But anyway, 2 movies from my collection, and I will dissect and talk them through with you, and my thoughts on them, you know. So, you know, whether it's going to be Dario Argento, or Stephen King, or I don't know, whether we're gonna do Giallos or whatever, Lucio Fulci or something else. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you will enjoy these. I hope you do. I'm working really hard on these, so sit back and I hope you will get excitement out of this. And today, for episode 1 of this podcast, we are going to talk about 2 Giallo films from Maestro Sergio Martino. Now, I'm a very big Sergio Martino fan. He has made so many amazing movies like The Violent Professionals, Mountain of the Cannibal God, and many, many others. So I'm very excited to discuss these 2 movies I selected for this afternoon. So let's get started. Sit back, and again, I hope you will enjoy. Alright, and that was actually one of the pieces of the soundtrack of the first movie we are going to talk about today, which is a Giallo that Sergio Martino made in 1971, and it was released in 1972. And this movie is called Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, which was based on Edgar Allan Poe's story, short story of course, The Black Cat, which Martino took inspiration from to make this film. A bit of an introduction music here I thought would be fun. You know, this actually what you heard was part of the soundtrack, which I'll get back to. So let's do a quick synopsis of this film. A series of murders are committed near the estate of degenerate author and his mistreated wife. I should correct that, by the way. A series of murders are committed near the estate and the house of a degenerate author and his mistreated wife. So, yeah, that's basically the synopsis of Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. So, let's start talking about this film. By the way, while I'm doing this podcast, I'm drinking coffee to keep me sharp, you know, so... Alright, so let's dive into it. Let's start with one of my favorite things in this film. This movie has such intriguing characters. It is amazing. First of all, you have Luigi Pistilli, who is the guy you love to hate. Oliviero Rovigny is a novelist who has hit rock bottom because he has a writer's block, and justifies his suffering by sinking into very sadistic tendencies. He's abusing his wife, both mentally and in a physical sense. He overdrinks way too much. He holds orgies at his mansion, and he goes so deep as to he even develops these incestuous fantasies about his niece. It is a really sleazy, gross, and disgusting character, which is great. It's fantastic. Then there is Anita Strindberg, who plays Oliviero's wife Irina. And at the start of the movie, she is such a pathetic character, because she just allows all of this abusive stuff to wash over her, without ever even, you know, fighting back. You know, she is so dislikable in the first half of the film, because she's a very weak character, because she doesn't even try to shake off and stand up against, you know, her monstrous husband. It's really weird. So that's a bit of a contrast that is very, very interesting here. But over the course of the film, you start opening up to Irina, especially when she confides in Oliviero's niece. As you slowly begin to see this poor persona be completely trapped in a fake gaslight kind of marriage. And just the things that she is put through are absolutely horrible. And then at the end of the movie, which has not one but two of the best twist endings I've ever seen, you cheer for her so much, because you just want to shout at the screen, you know, you clever minx, you good for you, man, good for you, girl, good for you. You had me there. You played me good. And it's like, you clever little beautiful woman that you are. You minx, that's good, you know. Good for you. That's like, Very big applause. Very good. I applaud that. You clever, minx you. Very good. It is so good. And this movie is one of the best examples as to why you should treat women like why you should treat a woman, any woman, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. This film is one of the best examples as to why you should treat a woman like a goddess. Because if you don't, there will be hell to pay. Let me tell you, there will be hell to pay. It is really good. And speaking of goddesses, let's talk about Edwige Fenech for a moment. Oh my God, Edwige Fenech. Oh my God, is she gorgeous? She is one of the most beautiful women that has probably ever lived. And in this movie, she portrays Floriana, which is Oliviero's niece. And it was the first time, to my recollection anyway, it was the first time that I remember that her character is actually the bad girl. As she uses both Irina and Oliviero to achieve her selfish goals. And in a way, she is the ultimate gold digger in this film, who very smartly uses, sex and her body and just her looks and stuff as a weapon. She uses that as a weapon to ensnare people, and it is absolutely amazing. I love Edwige Fenech as Floriana in this film. It is fantastic. Bit of coffee there. All right. So beyond the fantastic cast, this movie looks absolutely stunning as well. The artistic design of the villa, which was Villa Lugli, located in Treponti, Padova in Italy, of course, which apparently is now a famous wedding location, I found out. So figure that. That's pretty crazy. Apart from that, it was also filmed in Montagnana. I'm terrible at names, but I think it's pronounced Montagnana in Veneto, Italy. That's also where part of the movie was filmed, which was the location of the small town that it takes place in, where we get that amazing shot of the big town square that Oliviero's blue limousine drives up to, just as this, flock of birds takes off and circles around the plaza and stuff. It looks absolutely stunning. The imagery in this movie is beautiful. The same goes for the wonderful scenery of, the hills and the cliff sides, which to me proves that Sergio Martino really knew how to utilize his surroundings. And I can't close off this film without talking about the score. So let's dive into that. We have to talk about the music. Bruno Nicolai creates a very interesting score for this one. He sacrifices tension and scary influences for completely different music, which is a mixture of sensuality, romance, and mystery. And it works perfectly for this Giallo. It almost sounds more like a soundtrack that you would expect in a erotic thriller. And that is such an interesting process as well as a very creative choice. And I applaud Bruno Nicolai for that, because that's astonishing. Now, if I have to give this movie one negative, it would be that now we're going to talk about the negatives, okay? The issues that I have with this film. And if I have to give this movie one big negative, it would be that the kills in this movie are not very original or inventive. Basically, in the whole movie, the murders are toned down to simple stabbings or throat slashes. The murders aren't very creative in this film. And while that doesn't, let me be clear, while that does not diminish the movie in any way, story or character-wise, it doesn't diminish it in any way. But as a gorehound myself, I'm a gorehound. That's who I am. As someone who is quite a gorehound, I would have preferred the kills to be a little bit more graphic. That's all I'm saying. That's my only negative for this movie. The kills could have been, a bit more gory and more graphic, in my opinion. But overall, guys, let's close this one off because I talked about this movie enough. Overall, I love the hell out of Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, which is an incredibly long title, by the way. Oh my god. But I love the hell out of this movie. I think it's one of the best and most original Giallo films that I have ever seen. I think it's a fantastic work of art, and this is one of those movies from the Italian cinema that I can watch over and over and over again. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And so as far for my rating, I have to give a rating now on this movie. As far as my rating, I'm going to give Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic film, and if you love Giallos, you definitely have to watch this one. So 9.5 out of 10. That's my review for this movie. Alright, time for our second Giallo and movie of today. And next we are going to cover another Sergio Martino film, as it is of course 2 in 1, of course. And next we are going to cover The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, also directed by Sergio Martino. So let's do a quick synopsis of the film. An insurance investigator tries to determine any irregularities in the policy of a heiress's dead husband, but soon finds himself suspected of her murder. So yeah, that's it. But first, before we start talking about this movie, let's listen to this. again, a bit of the soundtrack there for you guys. I hope you appreciate that. A bit of the music from the film that we are going to talk about. So let's start discussing this film, shall we? Now, this movie was actually Sergio Martino's second Giallo that he ever made, just coming off of The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. So this was only his second Giallo that he ever made, which he shot in 1970, and it was released in 1971. So let's start dissecting this. I want to start addressing the scenery in this movie, which are absolutely gorgeous to look at. Especially the oceanic ones, with the yachts surrounding the islands. The moment where the character Cleo is leaning against, some large rocks, while she is crying, with the sea in the background reflecting, the sunlight, is so stunning to look at. It is absolutely beautiful. Or the shot of the restaurant facing the, the pantheon of the what is called the Italian Riviera. Is that how you call it? But the shot of the restaurant, facing the pantheon. The look of this movie is just so amazing. Shooting in Athens and Greece was very risky at the time, though, because the country was still rocked and being ruled by the military junta back then. The military, how do you call it? Yeah, I think that's what you call it, junta. The country was still being rocked, and it was still ruled by the military junta at that time, back then. So shooting in Athens and Greece was very risky at that time. But nonetheless, they did get help from the Greek Navy whenever they had to shoot scenes on the inhabited islands. Nonetheless, the Greek Navy were, able and willing to help them out on that occasion. So that was a good thing. But shooting in Greece and Athens was a very murky situation, and not without risk. But everything worked out in the end, There are also some very inventive camera angles in this film, like the scene that is shot sideways when the cops discuss the case in the inspector's office. The movie is full of, strange and interesting, points of view with the camera like that, and it's really interesting. It makes this movie really intriguing to watch. And speaking of inventive, the kills in this movie are much more extreme, which as a gorehound I appreciate. There is spear gun action, a great throat slashing scene against a glass door. Of course, the insidious and infamous stabbing of Lisa Baumer is much more brutal in this film. And there is even some nice eye candy for the people who dig that. There is some very nice eye candy in this film. But yeah, the kills and the gore is much more explicit and graphic in the case of The Scorpion's Tail, which is something that I really, really appreciate. Now, let's talk about the cast for a minute, right? Now let's talk about the cast, because the cast is phenomenal. George Hilton is amazing as the charming and kind, but very secretive private detective, Peter Lynch, who turns out to have some very dark secrets by the end of the film. some very dark secrets actually. But in spite of that, he gives a very credible and believable performance. So, Luigi Pistilli is back, and this time he portrays a very different character in Police Inspector Stavros, who is a very hardworking, honorable, and honest persona. In some ways, he is your very typical and cliche, kind of Hollywood detective who is trying to find the culprit. But you know what? But I don't mind, because it again is a very, very different role in contrast to his previous one in Your Vice, which I think it's fantastic. Actors that can play so many multiple roles, I find that really, I'm really thankful for that, and I really appreciate that. So Luigi Pistilli is amazing, but my personal favorite is Anita Strindberg in this film, as the kind-hearted, curious but very naive Cleo Dupont, a reporter who starts thinking, the murder case can be her, next big scoop, of course. But over the course of the movie, very soon she gets in way over her head when she starts uncovering things that she really shouldn't have. So she is a very interesting and likable character in this movie. That is, nonetheless, she is smart and resourceful and very, very sexy as well, which never hurts. It never hurts. But she is a amazing character, a strong female lead, and she is definitely the heroine of this movie. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the music. So let's talk about the score again. Let's talk about the score. Bruno Nicolai came back to make he was in this movie as well, making the music. And Bruno Nicolai created a intriguing blend of sounds for this film. But that's why I love it. The score almost feels unbalanced in a way, but the contradictions that he plays with work extremely well for this one. The tunes in London are sinister and foreboding, and it kind of gets under your skin. But when the story moves to Athens and Greece, the tone shifts and it becomes much more exotic and almost fairy tale like in its soundtrack. And so seriously, the music in this film is very contradicting, but it's so interesting to listen to. Just the contradicting, themes and tones with this one is very, very cool. And yeah, like I said, again, it's also shot in London, and he chooses a very different flavor for that one. So the soundtrack is incredible, interesting, and very intriguing to listen to. Now, despite all of that, I do have certain issues with this film. And I boiled it down to two main things that are kind of bothering me. So let's discuss the negatives for a bit. let's discuss the negatives of this movie for a bit. First of all, I would like to say that the scenes with the airplane, along with the airplane explosion, looks very, very fake. It looks very fake. You can clearly tell the models that they had were made of cardboard, you know, and stuff like that. So that part of the movie hasn't aged very well, I would say, and that for me anyway is one of the negatives of this film, one of the two. The airplane stuff is, you know, while it's a cool concept, it hasn't aged very well in terms of you know, the effects of it. You know, in terms of the effects, it hasn't aged that well. So that's first. Secondly, I just want to address that this Giallo right here, the case of the scorpion's tail, this Giallo is it is a Giallo that is very generic. This is a very generic Giallo for its genre. It goes much more by the numbers, in contradiction to, for example, Your Vice is a Locked Room, which I discussed earlier. It goes much more by the numbers as a Giallo. Now, that doesn't mean it makes it a lesser film. Not at all. I'm not saying that. It doesn't make it a lesser film. Not at all. But it does make it stand out more in Sergio Martino's oeuvre, so to speak. I have to be honest about that. It does make it stand out a bit more in his whole body of work of Sergio Martino. So, but those are the only two negatives I have with this film. So, yeah. Alright, I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about with this one. So, overall, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail is a Giallo that I enjoy immensely. I immensely enjoyed this film, and it's a movie that I extremely like. Sometimes it hinders itself, you know, for being more of a standard Giallo, like I said before. But there is so much to love in this one that you are willing to forget that stuff for the most part. And I think Sergio Martino did an amazing job with this one. With that said, it's time to give my rating. And I will give Sergio Martino's The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, I will give it an 8 out of 10. It is a very enjoyable, exciting, but kind of standard Giallo that has a lot to love in it. So, 8 out of 10. That's my rating for this second movie. And that is it. That is the end of our podcast. So, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think? Have you seen these two Giallos of Sergio Martino? Have you not seen them? If you did see them, did you love or like them as much as me? Or maybe you dislike them? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section. We can discuss and debate. Do you like this podcast? Did you like this podcast? Would you want more podcasts like this? I hope you do, because I plan on doing more down the line. So, whatever your thoughts are on that, let me know in the comment section down below. We can discuss and debate. Do you agree with all of my points on this? Do you disagree? Again, let me know in the comment section. Do you have any movies or TV shows you want to recommend for me to watch and review? Whatever you have to say, or whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comment section. I want to know your thoughts, opinions, theories, ideas, as always. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening. I will be back with more videos as soon as possible, of course. Stay safe and healthy as always. Have a good weekend, and I see you guys. Bye.